With the introduction of the Scarlet and Violet era, special illustration rares have taken the place of alternate arts. Fundamentally, both of these rarities are very similar, but for some reason, special illustration rares are not performing nearly as well as alternate arts have. So today, we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 special illustration rares from 2023, and determining if they're going to have value going forward or if they're going to continue to drop. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about special illustration rares, going through the top 10 and maybe a couple honorable mentions. So the first big special illustration rare we saw was the Miriam from Scarlet and Violet base. The Japanese version was going for like 700 USD and the English version was going for over 200 on release. I saw it selling for like 250 plus in Canada, 300 even. But very quickly this card dropped drastically. Today it is the strongest card in Scarlet Violet base and it's sitting at just $28. You could probably pick this card up for under 25 in the right place at the right time. It has lost all its value and unfortunately I doubt it's going to go up anytime soon. Another one is the Iron Hands EX. This card hasn't really seen much movement. It's only been out for about 4 months, but right now it's sitting as low as $22. You know, this card was pre-ordering at 25, shot up to 38, but it didn't maintain that too long. You know, it's a very playable card, but unfortunately I don't really see it doing too much in value either. We've also got Chin Pao EX. This card, just like Iron Hands, I think holds a bit more value because it's so playable, but it's sitting just about the same, $21, $22. You know, I think this is one of the better artworks from Paldea Evolved. I really like it, but it's not that difficult of a card to pull, which keeps it at a low value. Again, from Paradox Rift, we have the Altaria special illustration rare. This one has dropped quite a bit as well. It's on a steady decline from release. I think it's going to continue dropping even further. And one I'm surprised is not in the top 10 is the Erica's Invitation special illustration rare. This card was going for over 50 on release. Again, the Japanese version was going for way more than this one, but it steadily fell very quickly and now it's just been hovering, you know, in the low 20s. It's looking like you can pick this card up for probably under $20. So unfortunately, none of those cards cracked the top 10. You're looking at anywhere from like $25 to $30 for those. I think they'll all continue dropping further. None of them are really that special in terms of like being an iconic Pokemon or anything like that. You know, unfortunately, they're great artwork. They're great Pokemon. They're better than some alternate arts, but there's no value there. All right, so number 10 comes from 151. A lot of these top 10 cards are going to be from 151. As you guys probably know, 151 is by far the most popular set from the Scarlet and Violet block. So getting in with the first one is the Alakazam EX. You know, this card is awesome. I think it's super cool. You know, Alakazam is one of my favorite Pokemon. I think it's a bit slept on. This card, I think, you know, a lot of 151 has been opened, which is obviously going to affect these prices, but it's lost about $15 in value since release. You know, that's not as bad as some of those other cards, like that Miriam dropping like, you know, $150 in under a year is pretty drastic. So this card, you know, it was going for 45 bucks. Right now it's sitting just under 30. You could probably pick it up even cheaper. So it's a great card, great artwork. There's just a lot of them out there. Again, it's quite a bit easier to pull these than alternate arts, so the value has been affected significantly because of that. So this card has dropped about $15. You know, you can probably pick it up closer to 25, right place, right time. You know, if you're going to these card shows, that's where you're going to get the deals. It's a great card by a great artist. It just doesn't have that much value due to how many have been opened up. All right, going into number 9, I'm kind of surprised at this one. You know, a lot of people like this Pokemon for whatever reason, and that's the Gholdengo. So this artwork, you know, it's cool. It's kind of flat. I've said this in other videos. I don't really like this like basic flat like style. It can work some ways, but there's not a lot going on in this. It's dropped significantly since release. I think it was everyone's like favorite for whatever reason from Paradox Rift. Pre-ordering at like $85, $86 and now dropping to just about 30. I think it's going to drop even further. I know it's seeing some play competitively and I think it might see more with the rotation coming up. But again, in terms of collectability, this isn't like an iconic Pokemon. I guess it's kind of iconic for the new generation. But again, the artwork is kind of flat. Like, I guess you get what it is. It's just kind of right there in your face. I think it could be better. I don't think the value is really going to grow too much more. Alright, so following Gholdengo, we've got Iron Valiant from the same set, Paradox Rift. Now this card is new. I think a few of these top 10 cards being Paradox Rift is because the set is kind of new. Some of these big cards are pretty playable just as the TCG has evolved. You know, they brought in the future and ancient mechanics, so that kind of has something to do with the value. But again, this card is dropped. Like everything, I don't think there's going to be any we see here that have rose in value over the release. But this card has dropped from a height of just about $72 all the way down to 31. So it's cut in half over 3 months, 4 months since this card was released. You know, it's a cool card. It has multiple Pokemon in it, all these future Pokemon. So I think that is something that's neat that's going on with it. You know, you get more than one Pokemon. You know, with the Gholdengo, it's just Gholdengo. Here you get kind of a plethora of those future Pokemon. But $30, I think this is a really nice card. I could see it going up eventually, but not before it drops a little more. All right, jumping into number 7, we've got the Zapdos EX from 151. You know, this personally is my favorite card from 151, and I pulled it relatively quick. You know, it was the first SIR I managed to pull, so pretty happy with that. I haven't really opened too much 151 because it's hard to get, and to me, if the sealed value is what it is, it's not really worth opening at the moment. But you know, this card has been a little stronger over time, but it has continued to drop ever since release. It was going for as high as $50, and right now about 31. You know, depending on where you can find this, you might be able to get it for a good price, but I think a lot of these special illustration rares are going for a little more. On TCG Player even, they're selling from anywhere like $30 up until $60. So it's got a bit of a range. I think if you really want it, $30 is a good price. It's a great card. It's got the 3 birds, pretty iconic. I think this card is going to be a little bit like that stained glass promo from Hidden Fates, where it was, you know, almost worthless, like what, $5 card, and then all of a sudden it was like $25. It's a card I slept on. I wish I had a couple in my collection. I only have them sealed in ETBs. But anyways, I think this is a great card. I can see it climbing up on the list over time, but for now it's sitting at number 7. And now again, from 151, we've got the Venusaur SIR card. So this one has actually increased over time. On release, it was going for about $40, and now it's going for a little bit more, you know, $42, $43. This one is pretty cool. It's a nice artwork. Personally, it's not my favorite of the 3 starters, but it's been able to maintain some value, which is kind of odd for Scarlet and Violet era. You know, we're seeing like 50%, sometimes even higher price reductions over the first 3 months. This card's been out for almost 6, and it's sitting at $43. It hasn't really dipped below 40 at all, and it hasn't really gone above 45, so it's kind of been very steady. We'll see what the next 6 months has in store for it. I think there's going to be a lot of 151 open towards Black Friday. I could see a big reprint and sale going on because we haven't really got a big dump of this product at like a second or third wave that's just like everywhere yet. I think it's coming. It's not like Pokemon is not going to see that this set is making a lot of money. I think it's going to be similar to XY Evolutions, but we'll see over time. All right, now number 5, very similar to the Venusaur. You're looking at the Blastoise EX. This card, again, has hovered a little bit higher than the Venusaur, but it's just been hovering in price since release. The low actually hasn't been hit again with the, you know, the release price being $41.82. Managed to jump up to $56. You know, a lot of these cards kind of rose real quick on release when people realized the pull rates were a little trickier than Obsidian Flames and Paldea Evolved. But since hitting its high, it's dropped kind of slowly and then leveled out at about $45. You know, I actually missed out on a pretty good deal. I saw one of these for 40 Canadian and I was buying a bunch of other stuff, so I passed up on it. Looking back at it, I should have bought it. Probably could have just flipped it and made like $5 same day. Maybe more, maybe 10, considering it's going for, you know, if you convert these prices, it's going for a lot more. $40 Canadian is more like 30 USD. So this card sitting $46 right now. I think that's a good price. Personally, I think this is the best artwork of the 3 between Charizard, Venusaur, and Blastoise. It's very similar to the Dark Blastoise, so I can see some homage to the earlier sets in there. So again, kind of an iconic artwork from an iconic artist in Mitsuhiro Arita. And just like the Venusaur, I think it's going to drop a bit more over the next 6 months to a year, but I could see all these cards climbing pretty drastically, at least those original 151. All right, now that we're into the top 5, we're getting into Charizard territory. You know, everyone loves the Charizard tax, but we're looking at the Obsidian Flames one taking the 4th place spot. This is my personal favorite Charizard. I know we have 3 Charizard special illustration rares now. We're not counting Paldean Fates on this list today, unfortunately. But this one, out of the 3, I like it the most. It's the only one I have, personally. You know, some people don't seem to like it that much. I feel like I am kind of the odd one out, thinking it's the best of the 3, but I just love the whole like crystal explosion thing going on around him. It's very neat to me. It's somewhat simple, but it's got a lot going on around it, which I like. But the value shows that people don't like it. So on release and pre-order, this card was going for over 200. The high is $225.99. It's sold for that, surprisingly, and it dropped to today, $47.50. You know, it's dropped, what is that, $180 in value, $175 in value since August. So that's kind of incredible. I think this proves that everyone is just sick of Charizard. You know, it is always holding the first place in the sets it's in, but people don't love it as much as they used to. You know, personally, I'm sick of, you know, 3 or 4 new Charizards coming out every year. Potentially, I mean, more. If you look at this set alone, it had 4, and then 151 had 3. Paldean Fates has 2. They did the promo box, they did the tin. We've talked about this in past videos, but yeah, I don't know. This card, I think it's not gonna see too many gains. It's a Terra type Pokemon. People aren't taken to the Terra type cards. I think they're gonna have to kind of reevaluate the art style of the Terra types, but there's not really a point in doing that when you're already like a year into the block. But the special illustration rares, I guess, you know, they do have freedom there. Most of the special illustration rare Terra types have kind of sucked, so hopefully they make them a bit better going into the second block. But yeah, Charizard, you know, it's a Charizard. Value's not that strong. I don't think it belongs number 4. I could see it dropping a bit more, but we'll have to see. All right, next up, number 3 on the list. I think this card deserves its spot. The Roaring Moon. A lot of people like Roaring Moon, which is surprising to me because when they change something, a lot of people don't like it. They changed Salamence, you know, they just made a new version of it. But again, just like the Iron Valiant, this card features a bunch of different Pokemon, a lot of the ancient variants of other Pokemon. It's got great artwork. It's kind of showing that Roaring Moon is like the focal point of the ancient trait. So the highest this card went for was about $115, and it dropped but recovered a little bit. It's going for around 60 right now. I think it's going to drop more. Like currently Paradox Rift is kind of on fire sale in Canada. I can find booster boxes for pretty cheap, like $120, which normally doesn't happen, at least with this newer MSRP for the Scarlet Violet stuff. That's the cheapest I've seen, I think. Maybe 118, but you know, 120 is pretty low considering Pokemon Center sells these at like $200 nowadays. But yeah, $60 for the Roaring Moon I think is a pretty good price. I think it's going to go down to 50. I don't think it'll stay steady here for too long, you know. But again, great card. I'm glad it's in the top 3. All right, now moving on is like a card everyone loves, a card that I think is going to drop a little more in value. It depends if they reprint Paldea Evolved, because Paldea Evolved is getting a little harder to find. It's still cheap, but it's not really everywhere and like super available. This card is also really hard to pull because of the pull rates in Paldea Evolved, having so many different special illustration rares. But we're looking at the Iono SAR. But yeah, this is another one that's dropped pretty drastically. It was going for $175 on release, and right now it's sitting at, you know, $81, $80. I think that's a pretty good price. You know, as I said, I think it's going to drop a little more, but I made a previous video going over like just kind of Iono in general and how the milk carton, you know, premium tournament collection coming out is going to affect this one. You know, Paldean Fates has an Iono as well. You know, I like stuff about the Paldean Fates Iono, but I think this one is just like, it's brighter, it's got more detail. I think it's a little cooler. So yeah, $81. I think it's going to drop, but I think this is going to be one of the stronger cards from the Scarlet and Violet you know, first block. I don't really see this dropping out of the top 10 ever. It's going to stay steady for a while. All right, and number 1, our boy Charizard. Everyone loves Charizard, right? This card, you know, it's got cool artwork. I gotta say, it is cool. Now that I've looked at it a bunch of times, it's kind of grown on me. You know, it's got some like 2D, like papercraft kind of artwork. It's neat. But this card, it's grown in value, just like the Blastoise and Venusaur have. Release price was $97, which I'm surprised at, considering it's Charizard. You know, we saw, maybe people learned from Obsidian Flames. We saw that Charizard drop like, what did I say, $175 over a 6-month period. So maybe they were like, you know, that card was easy to get. This card will be too. But it wasn't as easy to get. You know, it was going from 97 to a high of 135, and then it's kind of dropped down slowly and been leveling out around $115. I think it's been sitting between 110 and 120 for the last, you know, month or two. This Charizard, again, I think there's going to be a big drop of 151 at some point in 2024. Maybe not. I don't know. It kind of depends. I know a lot of the Scarlet and Violet era hasn't been as popular. Pokemon is probably seeing that their products are not selling as good as they were back in like 2021. A lot of people have kind of left the hobby, but new people are constantly coming in. It's a bit of a revolving door. You got the constants, but you always have people coming and going. So this Charizard really depends on how much 151 keeps getting printed. If a lot of 151 comes out, this card's going to drop pretty significantly. But at the same time, I don't really see it going lower than Iono. I think it'll stay number 1 because it's Charizard, because it's from 151. It's going to be like an iconic card from that first block. I could see it dropping down to $100 sometime this year, but we'll have to wait and see. Alright guys, so that's our list of the top 10 special illustration rares. Personally, my favorite on that list probably has to be the Roaring Moon. I really want that card, to be honest. I'm going to try to get it sometime this year. Hopefully it drops a little bit more. I was thinking about buying a bunch of Paradox Rift to rip open, but you know, that's not the smartest thing to do when it's going for a lot less than what a Paradox Rift booster box sells for. So guys, let me know below, what is your favorite special illustration rare? Was it on this list? Maybe it wasn't. Let me know, and let me know why in the comments below. So as always, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a good one. We'll see you next time. Peace.